meeting to order. If we have a quorum present, we are missing a few of our members, but we have a quorum. If you would please bow your heads for our prayer. Our most graciously Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to live in a free country. Thank you for our state, our county, and city that we live in. Please watch over us and help us today as we make important decisions for the citizens of our city. Help us as commissioners to vote the way that you would have us vote and that the outcome will be for the best it can for our city and for our citizens. Please give us wisdom and knowledge. Help us to be the people you want us to be. Thank you for all the blessings you've bestowed upon us and help us to be good stewards of what has been given to us. Ask all these things in your Son's name. Amen. And Luke Urick will lead us in the pledge, if you'll please stand. Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since we are missing several of our members, we will have our vote next month on election of chair and vice chair. So in front of us, we have the consent agenda, which we have the minutes for January 22nd. Do I have a motion to accept?
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion second. All those in favor say aye. Okay, so 4-0. I need to introduce you to, yeah, okay.
I can't vote on it, so it'd be 3-0.
It's true, that's true, unless you watched it on TV. No? We also have a new member I need to introduce real quick. I forgot to do that, so Conley Brooks, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name's Conley Brooks. I've lived in San Angelo since 1997. Moved here originally in 1983, went to Angelo State for 5 years. Married to Heidi Brooks, and I am in commercial real estate here in San Angelo.
Thank you. Okay, our first case is College Hills South Addition, Section 11A.
Good morning, Hillary Bucher, Senior Planner. We're going to first start out with College Hills South Addition, Section 11A. This is a final plat of 5 acres, the northwest corner of South College Hills Boulevard and Vista del Arroyo. The zoning on this is split. It's RS1 and CN with the Neighborhood Center future land use, SMD 6, Billy DeWitt in the Sunset neighborhood. So the proposed plat is dividing an unplatted parcel into 2 platted lots. So the church as it sits now would sit here, and I'll show you on the next slide, and the other tract would remain vacant. So they are requesting a variance from Chapter 10-3A2 of the subdivision ordinance to allow South College Hills Boulevard, an urban minor arterial street, to maintain a 56-foot pavement width in lieu of the required 64. Staff is supporting this variance. We believe the current street widths do not pose a safety risk, and the established neighborhood in that area mostly has platted lots, as well as the overall improvements to College Hills are coming with the capital improvements plan that they have in place. Existing streets and most of the platted lots create a unique situation for this parcel. The existing street widths and configurations are already sufficient, and granting this variance would not vary any other provisions. So staff's recommendation is to approve the final plat, subject to 2 conditions of approval. Number 1, they need a copy of their certification of taxes paid from the appraisal district. And 2 is improve South College Hills Boulevard or obtain the variance. Additionally, staff is recommending approval of the variance from Chapter 10-3A2 of the subdivision ordinance to allow South College Hills Boulevard, an urban minor arterial street, to maintain its 56-foot width in lieu of the required 64. Does anyone have any questions?
John, we have just a quorum to vote today, and one of our members has to sustain from this vote. Okay. because one of them has to recuse himself from voting.
You are present for a quorum,
Okay.
but you're choosing not to vote. So you're not required to vote, but your presence still constitutes the quorum. If you left the room, then we would no longer, for this matter, then we would not have a quorum for a vote.
Due to a conflict,
You just turned it off. There you
due to a conflict of interest, I cannot vote on this. So I'm asking you, for public record, everyone knowing that I cannot vote on this, what should I do?
You're not permitted to discuss or participate in the deliberations. We've had a practice where an individual on a board or a commission that has a conflict steps out of the room to make sure that they're not influencing the vote. And if you do that, then we would no longer have the quorum.
Says each case heard before the commission must be heard by at least 4.
That didn't really answer my.
No, is there,
I think they're
can we consider just postponing this case to next month?
Yes.
So we don't have any issues?
I think that's what we need to do, since we only have 4 to vote, and we have to have 4 voting members, and he has to recuse himself whether he steps out in the hallway or in the audience. So I think we will need to postpone this until next month when we have everyone here.
Yeah, so I think we would need a motion to table.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to table
Okay,
this
thank
case,
you.
please.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So 3-0. Thank you.
Oh, just this one.
Okay.
Okay, we will move forward to the replat of lots 16 and 17, Block 1, Mineola Addition. This is a replat of .344 acres on the southwest corner of West 17th Street and North Bryant Boulevard, the CN zoning district, neighborhood center, future land use, SMD4 Lucy Gonzalez. It's also in the Blackshear neighborhood. So the proposed final plat is combining 2 previously platted lots into 1 lot. The rationale for approval, it's consistent with the future land use of neighborhood center. It's consistent with the intent of purpose statements, and this is completing a conditional of approval from a previously approved special use for auto sales. So with that, it's pretty straightforward. Staff is recommending approval of the replat of the Mineola Addition Block 1, lots 16 and 17, subject to 3 conditions of approval. 1 would be the tax certificate. 2, construct and improve the sidewalks adjacent to West 17th Street and North Bryant. And 3, revise the signature block to read Planning Commission. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you. Do we have any public comment? Any discussion? Okay, looking for a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor say aye. 4-0. Thank you. Okay, next we have related comprehensive plan amendment, rezoning and conditional use. The first one is the City of San Angelo and Savvy Tattoos. It's going to be CP 18-01, City of San Angelo.
Madam Vice Chair, I'm actually presenting all 3 at once.
Sorry, let me read those two. I knew that, but I was going to make you ask. Z 18-04, City of San Angelo, and CU 18-01, Savvy Tattoos.
Good morning. For the record, Christine Heredia with the City of San Angelo Planning Department. I am here to present a combination of 3 cases, and I will go through them all at once, but they will require individual motions. We are doing a comp plan amendment, a zone change, and a conditional use for properties located around the intersection of West 29th Street and North Bryant Boulevard. The conditional use is for this property right here. It's at 0.83 acres. The zone change is for that property plus those, which is 4.62 acres. And the comp plan amendment will be for all the properties, which is 11.6 acres. It is in single-member district number 4, Blackshear neighborhood. So the first is the conditional use. It is for this L-shaped property right here. There are two different properties. There are two different businesses located on that property, and if you look at the list, the first one here tells you which two retail businesses those are. Currently, there is no conditional use in place. Retail sales and services is allowed in the manufacturing district as long as they have a conditional use, and so that is what originally brought this to our attention. Was an applicant came in requesting to put their business at this location right here. The second we're doing is a zone change. When we were looking at doing a conditional use for that one property, we realized that all the retail businesses at that intersection, out of the 6 of them, only one of them had a conditional use in place, and that was right here for Julio's Burritos. The rest of them are either illegal, non-conforming, or completely out of compliance, such as the Chicken Express. They were built in 2007, which the zoning was already in place, but they don't even have a conditional use. And so the zone change, which is city initiated, is to rectify that situation and get rid of the light manufacturing zoning district and make it commercial. The very last thing, once again, as we looked at all this, we realized that not only was the zoning incorrect, but the future land use designations were not compatible with the area as well. There was a huge chunk of neighborhood center, which is for a light commercial. This is more of a heavy commercial due to the adjacency of Hirschfield Steel. Hirschfield Steel themselves has a neighborhood center future land use, and then many of the businesses down here have a future land use of industrial when they are actually retail businesses, and a commercial future land use is a better fit. So this first photo here is looking at the intersection of North Bryant and West 29th Street. So you can see the stripes is right here. Here's Julio's, and here's Chicken Express. And then this second photo is looking north towards that same intersection. So we are recommending approval of the rezoning, the comp plan, and the conditional use. The first rationale for the conditional use is that, number one, retail sales is allowed in a manufacturing zoning district provided they have the conditional use in place. And our applicant is eager and ready to open her business. Allowing a conditional use will allow her to open sooner than simply waiting for the zone change, which takes several weeks longer. The reason our rationale for approval of the zone change is that bringing these from a light manufacturing to a general commercial brings all the businesses into compliance, not just one of them. And it's definitely a more compatible zoning district than manufacturing due to the high presence of commercial businesses at that intersection. And as you can see as you drive through it, even on both sides, it is a strong commercial corridor. So making it commercial is the most logical choice. As for the future land use designation, due to the proximity of the industrial zone, which would be mainly Hirschfield Steel, a neighborhood center is an incompatible designation. Commercial is, while both allow retail sales, commercial allows for a stronger presence than a neighborhood center would. Hirschfield Steel does have one property. Part of their property is zone neighborhood center, which is completely incompatible. Changing that to industrial will allow them to develop as they grow. The businesses that are industrial, that we are changing from industrial to commercial, they are already zoned CGCH, which is a commercial designation. And rezoning and amending the FOU will allow the development patterns to continue uninterrupted. I sent out 27 notices to all surrounding property owners. We received 1 in favor of the conditional use and 3 in favor of the zone change comprehensive plan amendment, and we have received 0 in opposition. I did speak to a representative of Hirschfield Steel, and while they were in favor of it, they did not send anything in on record. So with that said, we are recommending approval of 3 different comprehensive plan amendments. The first is if change from future land use designation from neighborhood center to industrial, that would be for Hirschfield Steel, which is shown there on your list. The second is a comprehensive plan amendment, changing future land use designation from industrial to commercial. That is on your list as well. It's the very last one. So those are those properties that are already zoned CGCH. We're recommending approval of a comprehensive plan amendment, changing future land use designation from neighborhood center to commercial. And those are for those retail businesses located right at the intersection, such as the Julio's and the Chicken Express. We are recommending approval of a rezoning from the light manufacturing zoning district to the general commercial zoning district. Same thing for those 6 businesses located right at the intersection. And lastly, we are recommending approval of a conditional use to allow retail sales and services in the light manufacturing zoning district, subject to 2 conditions of approval. Those are, the first, that the applicant pave the 9 parking spaces as delineated on her site plan, and that she obtain a change of occupancy from the building and inspections divisions prior to occupancy. Do you have any questions for me?
We will have questions when we vote. I will have questions when we vote.
And the applicant is here as well.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. I'd open it up for comments.
Or anything like that. I would love to answer anything you have.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Thank you. Any other further comments from the public? Okay, so the first one we're going to do is the conditional use to allow the retail sales for Savvy Tattoo, correct?
Well, the
Or
order
how do
we
you
have
wanna
them in
do
is the
this?
comprehensive plan goes first,
Comprehensive plan goes first,
which
okay.
would be the first 3 on this slide here.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we have comprehensive plan amendment, changing the future land use designation from neighborhood center to industrial. We need a motion for that. Oh, I can do all 3? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, these 3 are all comp plan amendments
Okay.
from different things. You can do all 3 of those
Great.
together.
My apologies, I thought you had
That's
them
okay.
individually.
That's fine. We're also looking at a comprehensive plan amendment, changing the future land use designation from industrial to commercial, and comprehensive plan amendment, changing the future land use designation from neighborhood center to commercial. Looking for
I'm going to make a
motion.
motion to approve
Thank you.
changes to the comprehensive plan.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's 4-0. And then we have our next one is going to be rezoning from light manufacturing zone district to the general commercial zoning district. And that is the Z18-04, correct? Or do I need to forget about that? Okay, it's number 2 in our, there's 6 properties on there to be rezoned from light manufacturing to general commercial. Any discussion or a motion from anyone? It's going to be Stripes, Julio's Burritos, Los Caballos, Vet Clinic, Cowhand Saddlery, and Savvy Tattoos, and Chicken Express. Correct?
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am.
I'll make a motion to approve the rezone.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. There's 4. Okay, and then we have one more.
This is the conditional use.
Okay, this is conditional use to allow retail sales and services in light manufacturing. That's the one I wanted to do earlier. And there's 2 conditions attached to that. So looking for a motion on that. Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
4-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next one is going to be related comprehensive plan. Oh, sorry, we did that. City of San Angelo, Segunda Iglesia Bautista, and it's going to be 2 items: CP 18-02, City of San Angelo, and Z 18-03, Segunda Iglesia Bautista.
Good morning again, Christina Heredia with the Planning Department for the record. Today I am here to discuss Z1803 Segunda and CP 1802 Cosa. This is originally a zone change for a church that is zoned RS1. And we're requesting to change that to neighborhood commercial. And then similar to the first case, as we looked through it, we realized that the future land use designation was off, and so we're requesting to change that as well. It is a total of 1.2 acres if you include both the rezoning and the comprehensive plan amendment. The address of the church is 530 West Avenue T. It's on the west side of South Bryant Boulevard between Avenue T and Avenue S, single member district number 3 in the Rio Vista neighborhood. So as you can see on this map, the future land use designation right here is this side is neighborhood center and this side is neighborhood. Well, the church, half of their parcel here has 2 different designations on it. And so as we are requesting a zone change to a neighborhood commercial from a residential, we're requesting that the whole thing here become neighborhood center as well to keep them in line together. Here is 2 photos of the front of the church. So this is on the corner of La Cruz and West Avenue T, and this is in the middle of the block. This second photo is, here's La Cruz, but I wanted to show you that here's the church, and then this here is the back of the property that they also own, where they would like to consider putting a overflow parking for the church. This is that same empty lot that they own behind the church, which is right here. These 2 homes right here, this home and this home, those are the 2 homes that if we do amend the future land use, they will move from neighborhood to neighborhood center. However, one of those homes is vacant and dilapidated, and the second one, while it is occupied, both of them are in the future goals of the church to acquire and expand to. So we feel long-term that this is an overall better fit. So we are recommending approval. Our rationale is that neighborhood center future land use designation is a better fit for a church, especially since half of the churches already has that designation on it. RS1, which is single family residential zoning, does not allow for churches unless they have a conditional use. The church already has a conditional use. They actually, as they've expanded, they've gotten a conditional use and they've gotten variances. And as they continue to expand, our first thought was, well, we'll just put another conditional use on there. And then we realized the better fit would be, because they have plans for this whole block, is to rezone them so they don't have to keep coming back every time they want to do something. That church has been in the area since 1964. Their first expansion was in the 70s, so they are a prominent part of that neighborhood. And as I said earlier, they have plans to accumulate the surrounding properties. We sent out 30 notifications, and I have received 0 in favor and 0 in opposition. With that said, we are recommending approval of a comprehensive plan amendment changing the future land use designation from neighborhood to neighborhood center, as well as a rezoning changing from the single-family residential to the neighborhood commercial zoning districts. And that is my presentation. Do you have any questions for me?
So Christina, when we do this, if we do this as rezoning it, then it would get rid of the conditional use. That would go away. It would just go into neighborhood, or how does that work?
Well, the conditional use is from the 80s. It'll still stay, but it'll be on paper it'll still show up, but it'll be overridden by the zone change. So it'll be there, but it will be defunct.
Okay, thank you.
Do the 2 single-family lots that are being rezoned, do they have a legal non-conforming use, or what?
Well, they're not actually being rezoned. We had originally thought about rezoning the whole block, but
Yeah.
because they are still, one of them is still occupied.
You're just changing the comprehensive plan?
Correct. And we have had some discussion as to if housing is allowed in a neighborhood center use or not. So we feel that overall it would still be a compatible use, especially since they plan to slowly acquire that property.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll open it up for public comment. Is there anyone from the audience? Okay. We're looking to, for a comprehensive plan amendment, changing the future land use designation from neighborhood to neighborhood center. Looking for a motion on that.
Make the motion to approve.
Thank you. We have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then also rezoning from single-family residential RS1 zoning district to neighborhood commercial CN zoning district. Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have some rezonings coming up. The first one is Z18-02, Tuck.
Good morning, Planning Commissioners. Jeff Fisher, Senior Planner. This is case Z1802 Tuck. It's a zone change from office commercial CO to two-family residential RS2. There are 3 existing vacant lots at the corner of Harris and Park Street north of Beauregard, right across from the Civic League Park, 0.52 acres, and SMD number 5, Lane Carter, in the central neighborhood. So the existing future land use on the property is neighborhood already. That's a residential designation long-term. And the current zoning is office commercial. I checked with our permits and inspections division. We looked back on the old polk directories as far back as the 70s, and also looked at our Tom Green County Appraisal District. And these properties, to the best of our knowledge, have been vacant for over 30 years. So believe that RS2, for the reasons we'll explore in a minute, is a better fit than the current office commercial, which hasn't been used as that. So the proposed RS2 zoning, as you can see, is currently RS2 in this whole quadrant between 67 Jefferson Park and West Beauregard. This is the last property left that's office commercial. These are some photos of the surrounding area. That's looking south. There's an existing salon and spa and Peasant Village restaurant you may be familiar with right at the corner, and then Civic League Park on the other side of the street. North is church. This is looking east at the park and west at the properties right now, which are currently vacant. This is the view from 4 and 6 South Washington Street. Those properties are also vacant, are zoned residential. So staff's rationale for approval to RS2 is as follows. We believe that the proposed zone change is compatible with plans and policies. The neighborhood designation talks about diversity and opportunity of different housing choices and a balance of housing in that area. So it is a residential designation, so I was mentioning. 2, all 3 lots would comply with the RS2 development standards. In the RS2 district, you can also build single-family homes, or you can build 2-family homes or duplexes. Each lot is 7,500 square feet. The minimum for a single family is 5,000, and the minimum for a 2-family is 6,500, so they're well above that in either case. We believe that designation is compatible with the surrounding area. As we mentioned, it's all of the zoning west of the park and north up to Highway 67 is RS2 already. Number 4, we believe that the CO zoning would generate a lot more traffic if you had a dentist office there, and also it doesn't seem to be selling as that, so the RS2 would be compatible. Most of the commercial or office commercial zoning tends to be those first 3 lots north or south of West Beauregard. As soon as you go north of that, it really becomes more of a residential area. Staff does not anticipate any effects on the natural environment. The applicant comes in down the road and applies for homes there, and building permits, grading, and stormwater would be looked at the time of permitting. Staff believes there's a community need for additional housing in that area. It's close to transportation. It's close to downtown, so that housing would be the best fit, highest and best use of the property. And finally, development patterns. Most of the traffic, we believe, would use West Beauregard Avenue, a major arterial road, would benefit from that development. 8 notifications were mailed out, 0 in favor. We did receive 3 letters in opposition, which I've provided to you in that package. Of those 3, there were one of the property owners owns 3 of those lots. So in actual reality, it is just a total of 3, although it's 6 properties. Staff recommendation is to approve the rezoning from the office commercial CO to the 2-family residential RS2 zoning district. Any questions or comments?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
As long as that green button's on.
You referred to Beauregard being as a major arterial road. When school lets out on Park, it becomes a major arterial road too. It becomes a racetrack. Have you addressed the safety concerns?
To the best of our ability, we believe that we have. We believe that there's essentially that in that area, it would either have to be a commercial district or a residential district. And so if it was to stay office commercial, it would be any professional office, could be a dentist, an accountant. That would likely generate more traffic than if you have the worst case scenario on 3 lots. Let's just assume the worst case they were all duplexes. The applicant's here to address, I guess, any intent that he has for those properties. But you would have, say 6 to 10 vehicles at the most. Most of those people would have a job during the day and would leave the property, and so they would be vacant for most of the day. If you had a dentist office or something like that, we believe there would be more traffic generated from a commercial use because you'd have in and out traffic all day long. So we believe that given the fact that all of that area is residential already, it would probably increase traffic load if we had a commercial use there versus a residential property. And it could be that there are 3 single-family homes, as the RS2 zoning allows both options.
How many parking spaces per house? I forget.
2.
2 per house is
Correct.
what is designated.
Yes, sir. So if they came in, for example, to get building permits, they would have to include a site plan drawing, and that site plan would have to show 2 parking spaces for each of those properties.
You have any other questions for Jeff?
Not right now. We may have some
Okay.
more in a little bit.
Okay, great. We're going to open it up for public discussion. Yes, sir, if you'll come to the mic, please. State your name.
Y'all for letting us speak. I'm Charles Hughes, and my wife Julie. I've lived on the corner of Beauregard and Washington for the past 42 years, and my wife and I own that lot directly to the west, or those lots directly to the west of this property.
Jeff, can you put the map back on that shows the Hughes property?
You can see where we cleaned it off. Okay. We bought all of these and then cleaned them off. I don't know if y'all have seen them or not, but it was basically it was a crack house that had been condemned. So
Yeah.
we cleaned all that off, and we abut this property in question. And we're speaking today in opposition of this. First off, though, I'd like to thank Jeff. First time I'd ever done this, and Jeff basically walked me through how to do it. So he's a good guy, and I appreciate your help, Jeff. Well, as y'all know, we've got Civic League Park. The 3 biggest problems: parking, traffic, pedestrians. Those are the problems. You've got Civic League Park and the International Water Lily Collection. You can't access that via a car from, of course, the east is the river. South is Beauregard, you can't park on it. North is Pecos, you can't park on it. So if you want to visit the Water Lily Park or the Civic League Park, you got to park on Park Street. And there are buses coming through and, you know, tours and all, but basically you always have cars parked on both sides of the road. In addition to people coming and going visiting the park, you've got Peasant Village, and Jason is here, the restaurant on the corner of Park and Beauregard. You've also got Nicole. She has the Secret Vineyard, which is the beauty shop and spa next door to this property. They all, of course, have customers coming and going all the time. And then also, well, to the north is the St. Paul Presbyterian Church. And in that little package y'all got, we just printed out a little synopsis here of all of the groups, organizations that use their facilities. This is just a partial list. And, you know, there are people there every day, and they use the Harris Street entrance for loading and unloading. I think their meeting rooms must be in there, but it's not unusual to see semis parked down in that dip. And of course, y'all do know, you know, from Beauregard to Park going on Harris, there's a dip that goes, and all the drainage comes through and goes over to the park. But anyway, semis parked out there, loading boxes, unloading, you know, people, same thing. There's traffic everywhere. In addition, Park Street isn't 40 foot, it's only 38 foot, so it's a little narrower than normal. And anyway, so long story, parking's a problem. If you put residences there, think of the city trash ordinance. If you've got 3 duplexes there, that's a dozen trash cans that have to be out on Park Street, you know, on trash collection days. Where are they gonna go? I mean, you know, literally, where are they gonna go? The other issue was the traffic, and of course, most of the time, if you don't know any better, you know, it doesn't look bad. But you do have the businesses, and the biggest problem is, of course, Central. As Mr. Brooks said, you know, he lives down there, he knows too. Street could be vacant except for the parked cars, and then when school starts, when the lunches take off, you've got them going both ways. When the athletes take off to go to the Bobcat Stadium, they all zip down Park Street, and same thing when school lets out. So, you know, it's deceptively quiet looking some of the time, and then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. And if you don't know if you don't know about it, you're going to be surprised with cars zipping by you in every possible direction. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, the church activities. And the last thing I wanted to speak about was the foot traffic. There's a surprising amount of pedestrian traffic there, and they all come down Harris pretty much. If you'll think about it, Pecos to the north and Beauregard to the south aren't pedestrian friendly or dog walking friendly even. So the fact that you've got those heavy traffic roads to the north and the south basically funnels all your pedestrians into Harris. They all walk down that dip and come back up and to that unmarked T intersection. And, you know, they're coming and going, and we've seen, you know, dogs dragging kids around. I mean, it's a surprising amount of traffic, all times. Even now we have a homeless problem. So, you know, 3 o'clock in the morning there are people running around. But there's a lot of pedestrian traffic. In a nutshell, now we have a problem now. It's not really something we can't deal with, but it's a concern. There are a lot of, you know, like I say, everybody surrounding it is going, wait, we don't need residences. You've got limited and crowded parking on a narrow street, sporadic, heavy traffic, you know, sometimes none, sometimes it's backed up past the Harris intersection. Heavy pedestrian traffic all funneling into this T, and adding as many as 6 individual family units to this is just going to exasperate an already dangerous situation. And the zoning says we could put duplexes. Well, y'all are familiar with the area. The closest residences are my house and McCammon's to the west, and then north of Pecos or south of Beauregard. And all of those residences are, old mansion, Victorian type things from a bygone era. Duplexes aren't going to fit, just plain and simple. They're just not going to fit in that area. And we think that the way it's zoned now, the CO is actually the highest and best use for the property. You could put, like I said, a professional strip center, but with the setback requirements, you could still back it away from Park Street and put parking on the lot in front. That would eliminate a whole lot of problems. We think that's a whole lot better solution than splitting it up to as many as 6 individual spaces. And so, more people, more traffic, more trash cans, it's already bad, and I'd hate to see some kid running out between parked cars and get flattened by Central kid, which is, I think, what we're looking at.
Julie, do you have anything to add?
No, I concur.
Thanks. And
Okay.
like I say, I believe Jason and Nicole are also here, and then the owner of the property is
Great.
also here.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Char.
Appreciate
Uh-huh.
it.
Mr. Hughes.
Any additional comments? Oh, yes, or we're gonna get comments.
Commissioner, or Vice Chair, did you want the applicant to come first?
Let's do that,
Okay.
please. And you can be next, Jason. Okay, thank you.
Morning. My name is Christopher Tuck. I'm the owner of the properties in question. In making this application for a change of zoning, I was not aware of any objections to it. And it was brought to my attention over the weekend that there had been not just one, but actually 3 objections, and more or less all neighbors on all sides had objections to the change of zoning. I live in Dallas currently, but I've lived a number of years here in San Angelo. I know all the people that are involved in the neighboring properties. And the last thing I would want to do is add an antagonistic situation into the mix where we're doing something that is not popular and they're trying to avoid. I've given this a great deal of thought, and my feeling is the best solution is for me to withdraw the application to allow it to remain as commercial. And I've had one person in the past that was interested in putting pastoral counseling there where they could have parking as well as an office. And I would hope that perhaps I find someone in that same vein that does not create a lot of traffic and yet remains commercial to utilize it. So I don't know what the procedure is, but I would like to withdraw the application.
Okay, yes, sir. Is there anything we need to do formally on that? We have legal at the table, so we'll see what he says.
Yeah, I think it would take a formal action by you all to vote to accept the withdrawal, basically
Okay.
denying the case.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tuck. I'd like to make a motion to withdraw the case.
Okay. Any discussion on that?
I'll just make a
Yes,
note.
sir.
We'll word that in the minutes as a motion to accept the withdrawal rather than
Thank
to
you.
withdraw.
That
Great.
would be, okay.
Clarify.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion to accept the withdrawal of the rezoning in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to go into conditional uses. Yes, sir. We're going to start with CU 18-02, Powell.
Okay, Jeff Fisher, Senior Planner again with the City of San Angelo. So our next case is a conditional use for a renewal of a short-term rental that you all approved, or some of you approved last year, CU 1802 Powell. Property is on Gun Club Road, west of Gun Club Road and Mesquite Lane, SMD number 1, Tommy Hebert's district in the Nasworthy neighborhood. So the property, when it was platted, is a unique situation where it was split into two parcels. The southerly property has the existing home that backs out onto Lake Nasworthy. That's predominantly where the short-term rental takes place. They've got a nice backyard here. The north property is a carport, which they share with another neighbor to the east. And that carport allows 2 parking spots, which they've already paved. They had an administrative adjustment last year. That mouth between the carport and the street, that driveway area, right-of-way, to exempt them from having to pave that because it's so close. But they did pave the 2 spots under the carport. They have approximately 2 more spaces they could use to the west, too, if they were to park their vehicles there. The future land use, the southerly property is neighborhood, and the northerly property is rural, probably because of when it was annexed in. Single-family residential RS1 is the zoning. This is the a site plan for the areas I was mentioning. So there's the 2 vehicles that park up here, and then the house and the short-term rental is down on the south. Photos looking west and east on Gun Club Road. This is the carport area here, and this is the south portion of the property. This is in their backyard here, so it's got direct frontage onto Lake Nasworthy. And this is looking the neighbor at the east and the neighbor looking west. So staff's rationale is to approve the renewal of the short-term rental for the following reasons. We believe that there would be minimal impacts on the neighborhood. It's been 1 year since you all approved this last year. There's been no adverse impacts. I'll start with the bolded statement on the bottom. We did check with St. Angelo Police and where their code compliance division, as this came up in another request on a short-term rental. No violations received from code compliance and no calls from SAPD in the last 365 days. We believe it's the proposal is consistent with the zoning ordinance, complies with all the zoning provisions. There's adequate parking on the property. We believe it's compatible with the surrounding area. This is a rustic recreational area. It's very close to Mary Lee Park and the marina. You've got walking and jogging trails nearby as well. No anticipated effects on the natural environment. The home's already there. Believe there's a community need, again, just given the trails and the marina nearby, and no anticipated effect on the development patterns as the lots were already platted. 6 notifications were mailed out. We did not receive any letters in support or opposition as of this meeting. Staff concludes our presentation recommending approval to allow a renewal of a short-term rental in the single-family RS1 zoning district, subject to the 5 conditions of approval in your staff report. This concludes our presentation.
Okay. Any questions for Jeff? Okay. Mr. Powell, would you like to come up?
My name's Pat Powell. This has been a 2-year process. We've jumped through all the hoops, did everything the city wanted, have no adverse effect. I don't see any reason why this shouldn't be approved. We've paid the fees, we've paid the parking, we've paid the inspectors, we've paid everything that's there, and we've had no adverse effects. So I ask you to go ahead and approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Jeff, can you move it to that next screen, please, with the 5? Okay. Okay. For a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
A second.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the short-term rental for renewal. Okay, to allow for renewal of short-term rental in the single-family residential RS1 zoning district, subject to the 5 conditions.
It's actually the renewal of the conditional use.
Okay. That word is missing off that screen that I'm reading off of, but that's okay. Thank you. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Hillary Bucher again. We're moving on to conditional use, 1803 Ballman. It's a conditional use to allow for the construction of telecommunications facilities. 1.6 acres is the acreage of the address at 36 West Beauregard Avenue, SMD number 3, Harry Thomas, in the downtown neighborhood. So the future land use of this property is downtown. We're right in the middle of the central business district zoning. This is just kind of a bird's eye view. These facilities will sit atop the current Wells Fargo building. So I counted at least 6, so several stories in the air. This is from the parking lot, and then as you get up close, the closest I could get to get the height of the building. These are from the south side looking north at the building from a couple of different angles. So you can see there's already a couple of antennas. I'm not sure exactly what purpose they serve, but there's some already up there. This would allow for a new one. So these are called the alpha sectors. They will be flush mounted to the building and painted to match. This is the beta and gamma sectors. They will be approximately 10 foot back and be sled mounted. The applicant is also here to answer any more questions because beyond that, telecommunications towers, I don't have a lot of knowledge on that. So we looked at the rationale for approval of the conditional use. The existing businesses downtown already have other antennas, and the building will continue the same use as it is today, so little impact to the surrounding area. The telecommunications facilities are allowed with a conditional use, so this would allow them to be consistent with the zoning ordinance. The surrounding areas are commercial uses, and we would continue, again, that use within the building. We see no effects on the natural environment, and additional telecommunications capacity in the area where business is already established is always a need. The development pattern, it creates a logical pattern of development within the central business district. We mailed out 18 notices. We received 1 in favor of the building directly adjacent, was very excited to have additional facilities, and 0 in opposition. So staff recommends approval of a conditional use to allow for telecommunications facilities in the central business district zoning district, subject to 2 conditions of approval. They would be that they would work with the permits and inspections division to ensure they were meeting all the standards and be required for the building permit. And the applicant shall ensure the beta and gamma sector components are a minimum 10-foot setback from the parapet wall to minimize the visual impacts. And the alpha sector is flush mounted to the building and painted to match. Does anyone have any questions?
Since this is in that historical district, does it also go to?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I should have put that in as part of the presentation. We actually went to the DHRC last Thursday, and they approved their portion of this.
Went to them first. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Would the applicant like to speak to us? Okay. Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Bill Bowman. I represent, actually in this case, I represent the wireless company. And I live in Arlington, Texas, 2300 Springmere Drive. And we were before the commission on Thursday, I believe. Yeah, and I believe it was a unanimous approval. Originally, we were going to, I will say this for the record, we were going to raise the antennas on the chiller units are on the roof of the building, so they kind of prevented us from setting what I'd call the south sector. Okay, let me, yeah, okay. This is probably, if there's anything critical in this whole thing, it was this. You see the photo rendering that the architect provided to Hillary. You're not seeing my finger? Yeah, you can touch it. I can, okay. That area is busy with chiller units, et cetera, so we couldn't do this up here. So what we did is we scratched that idea, and instead of them being up here, oh, this is neat. Instead of them being up here, we put them down there. So in essence, we tried to, do the best we can to camouflage their appearance. So, and staff recommended that. We went along with it. It's a good solution, and the other group liked it, and here we are. And unless you have any questions, I think everybody now is pretty familiar with what wireless sites do for us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Looking for a motion?
I make the motion that that it's approved.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the conditional use to allow for construction of telecommunications facilities in central business Business District. And it has two conditions that go with the approval, and it is seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one we have for conditional use is CU 18-04 Ferguson. Okay, thank you.
Jeff Fisher, Senior Planner again, Conditional Use 1804, Ferguson Enterprises, Inc. You may be familiar with this property is currently the Angelo Fun and Skate Center off of Buick Street in San Angelo, south of Sherwood Way. You've got Mitchell Automotive here, Rose's Restaurant, a number of retail, commercial uses, carpet and flooring, an insurance company, and a self-service storage facility in this area. The applicant wishes to acquire this property for wholesale trade in the CG zoning district, which is only allowed with a conditional use. And the distinction between wholesale trade and retail sales and services, the predominant use of the property is where you're shipping. Usually involves more truck traffic and things like that. So it's more of distribution. The retail component is still there, but it's usually secondary. Whereas with retail sales and service, your predominant use is selling directly to the public, and then the secondary use would be wholesale or distributing and deliveries and things like that. So this is an SMD number 6, Billy DeWitt's district and the College Hills neighborhood. The future land use is commercial, and the is general commercial. The self-service storage facility is pre-existing. That's office commercial at the corner. All the other uses here, including the subject property, is zone CG. The applicant has provided a site concept plan for your review. So this is Buick Street coming down, and it dead ends over here. Their concept at this point in time anyway is to keep the existing building, which is approximately 18,000 square feet, use 10,000 of that for the warehousing component and 5,000 for retail with a 3,000 showroom. So again, the predominant area would be warehousing. They would add parking and pavement in this yellow area here. Right now, the east of the building is the mini golf, outdoor mini golf, so that would be paved over. And they would also add a third driveway in this area here. Currently, there's these two driveways over here. So this is looking north on Buick Street. As mentioned, you've got Rose's, you've got Mitchell Automotive on the east, and this is looking south. East at the dead end, and west at the paint store. South of the property is vacant, and followed by the self-service storage facilities, and then this is looking at the property at the front where you have the existing paved parking lot. So staff went out, the planning department and engineering department went out and took a look at this. Engineering had also had consultations with our operations division. And we discovered that Buick Street, as it's designed, was really designed as a local road. It was substandard to the current conditions. It was built to a lower standard subgrade. So a lot of that road is already deteriorating. And staff will be recommending denial today on this application for two reasons. One, predominantly, is the compatibility of land uses. All of the uses on that street are more retail-oriented. This is bringing in, again, that wholesale trade center. Secondly, you've got the road. A lot of 18-wheelers are coming in. They anticipate additional truck traffic, so you have some safety issues there on the current road. So an additional 42 trips a day. Not all of these may necessarily be 18-wheelers, but we understand a lot of them could be. So that's the current scenario. That would not include other box trucks or just general traffic concerns that we had. Consistency with the zoning ordinance. The current zoning they would comply with in terms they should have enough room for parking. There would be some concerns about maneuvering 18-wheelers in and out of the site. We believe most of those issues could be resolved at the site plan stage, but again, we're back to the road condition. Number 3, we looked at compatibility with the surrounding land uses. Safety issues are a major concern here. Even if the road was brand new hot mix asphalt, was 50 feet wide as a collector, something like this is kind of quasi-industrial, there'd still be the concern, given the fact that you've got, I know with Rosa's gets pretty busy at lunchtime, Mitchell Automotive, a lot of those trucks would be coming in and out all day. So that intersection at Sherwood, we believe, would be a potential problem. No anticipated effects on the natural environment. Any additional pavement would be addressed through a change of occupancy for that building. Community need, staff had recommended to the applicant and made some calls to our economic development division, COSA DC. We've also communicated this to the real estate agent and to the applicants themselves. Should this application be approved or not be approved, we would look at other possibilities for them in town. So we believe that there is a community need. We definitely believe having this business would be good for San Angelo, but we just don't believe this is the right location as planning staff, given those variables. And finally, development patterns. We mentioned about potential accidents from trucks coming in from Sherwood Way. So 11 notices were mailed. We did receive 3 in favor of provided to you. 2 were from the same owner, Mitchell Automotive, which owns 7 and 6 here. So staff recommendation is to deny the conditional use to allow wholesale trade in the general zoning district, CG. Any questions or comments?
I have a couple of questions for you. So we're doing this as a conditional use. What would the zoning actually be, ideal zoning for that if it were for wholesale trade?
Probably.
Where does that fit in?
Yeah, so a heavy commercial CH or an ML light manufacturing, both those zoning districts would allow wholesale trade by right.
General commercial does not.
Correct.
Okay.
It's a conditional.
Right.
Use.
No, I was just.
Right.
Yes, the
Yeah.
conditional
Correct.
use would stay with the property.
Okay.
My other question, Jeff, is where did you get the number of 42 trucks per day?
It was provided by the applicant.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Jeff?
Not for Jeff.
Okay. Is the applicant present? Would you like to speak? Good morning.
My name is Nick Turner. I'm with Ferguson Enterprise. I am the area operations manager that would cover this area. Couple things to talk about. We have been looking at the San Angelo area for several years. We are in tune with a local realtor. That's who got us on this property. Additionally, we have worked with looking at the downtown district with Mike Biggerstaff at potential locations. The biggest problem that we have is based upon customer interviews. A large portion of our potential customers or customers that we currently already have want something in this southwest area. So with that, we looked at this, and then we're looking for the conditional use before we move forward with potentially buying this property or leasing this property. To address a couple of the issues that we've talked about, 42 daily trucks. So when we're addressing the trucks, we're talking about CDL Class B trucks. Those would be anywhere between a Dodge 550 to an International 4400. And those trucks are deliveries that are going out to our consumers, to our customers. When it comes to the large trucks, 18-wheelers, it would on average be no more than 2 to 3 18-wheelers a week. And that could increase, that could decrease, but, oh, thank you. But 18-wheelers are not predominantly going to be the trucks that we're talking about. We're talking about the Class B, in between the 26 and 10,000 pound weight limit there. Let's see what else. Compatibility with the surrounding. We've talked about wholesale distribution. With that, we are talking about an 18,000 square foot location. Of that, 8,000 would be for retail. We split that retail into 2 separate retails. One would be the showroom / appliances, lighting, plumbing, the commercial finish out or home good finish out for housing. The other section would be counter retail, which is where plumbers or homeowners can walk in. They need a ball valve. They need something to fix their sprinkler, their water heater. We are going to service multiple customers through that. The warehousing not only supports the retail up front, but supports the deliveries that we'd have additionally. As for the traffic patterns, yes, the traffic patterns could be affected, but there is a light at Sherwood and Buick. We also believe that in addition to when it comes into the number of trucks that go through there, Roses is getting 18-wheelers from food trucks on a daily basis, trucks that deliver new vehicles to the car dealership are driving down that road. And additionally, we believe that the paint store, the carpet store, everyone's utilizing Buick today with 18-wheelers. So maneuverability of those trucks is accessible because it's currently happening. What questions do you have for me, guys?
How many people do you expect to employ?
We expect to start off with approximately 4 to 5 associates. With those, we would like, if it were 5, we would want 4 local associates and 1 maybe from out of town to help run it. And that's just to make sure that we're doing the Ferguson way with it, and then we'll bring local candidates in as well.
Any other questions?
I don't think I have any more questions right now.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
How are y'all today? Brandon
Good.
Sanders, Steve Eustace Company. I've been working with Ferguson for several years, I think at least 5 or 6 now, trying to find a location. It's been difficult because they don't really fit exactly with any of our zoning uses and what they need. They do have retail. I think the proposal on this one is 44% versus the 51% needed, so it's really close. So I would say it's the lowest end of wholesale trade I can really think of in examples. As y'all know, I call a lot, I call staff, and I appreciate all the help I get because I try and take care of these in advance. So when we've been looking, this seems to fit really well. When I look at other areas of town, you've got heavier retail uses along major thoroughfares. You usually have some side streets that allow for uses like this. I chose this spot because it was absolutely the closest we could find anywhere in the southwest or south side of town. I don't think that it's, you know, the light manufacturing areas, the Costa DC site, that's not what they are. They have a retail component. They need to have a area that's easy to get to and that people are comfortable going to. So I was concerned, and I'm glad that Marcus showed up because the impact as far as traffic concerns, I couldn't answer that, but I thought that it was aggressive on the truck count. They do have trucks coming in, but like you said, they're going to be smaller, very few 18-wheelers. So when I saw the report, you know, a lot of 18-wheelers, and it could be a lot of 18-wheelers, it's just, that's not what it's going to be. The current use, I tried to get some totals on that. I know there's a weight difference as far as damages to street, but up to 50 per day, so that's 100 trips per day for the current use for people visiting. Weekends, 250 to 300 people, which would be 500 to 600. So I don't think there's going to be near as many trips, which would lower traffic, but there is some weight. As far as compatibility, again, when I'm looking at that, it's warehouses. The floor store has a retail warehouse component. The old paint store had retail warehouse component, self-storage. It is just, it's behind the automotive repair portion of the Buick shop. So I'm not sure how else to better describe it. It's not large-scale transport goods to third party, which is what the wholesale trade typically says when it's in those heavier districts. Let me see what else. Like I said, the Costa DC site being more suitable, it's just, that's a different type altogether. The Abilene location, it's in, you can see a picture of that. That has good visibility, and it's within 0.4 of a mile from their mall and their heavy retail. So they're trying to be closer to the heavy retail. We just don't offer those specific areas.
Brandon, what is you said the wholesale is going to be a lower end, so your retail, you're looking at like 55% or somewhere?
Well, I think what we were looking at for it to be, correct me if I'm wrong, we were looking at a 51% retail to storage. You know, and again, I've tried to call out, see what I need to do or what we can do. We had to, you know, get the report on Friday, you try and scramble to get some things together, so I would just like a chance to respond if there's anything specific that we can't address. I tried to get a hold of the owners. It was just too short of a time frame, so I apologize. think if there was anything that came up. The safety issues, I just wanted to address again. I think that the deliveries with the 18-wheelers is not going to be at lunchtime. I think that'll be early morning, late afternoon. And I can answer any other questions. We've been working on it a long time.
Any questions for Brandon?
I don't have any questions for Brandon.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any other comments from the audience? Good morning.
Reed Shahan. I developed the whole area. I still have two properties in there, have the paint store, have the Buick Street storage. I would actually probably benefit through Buick Street storage if Ferguson were across the street, because there are a lot of plumbers that would like to have a storage facility right there to be able to come and go from the same place. My only concern is about the condition of the street. If the city will keep it up, don't know. I think what will happen is the turnaround area, the cul-de-sac, will be used by all the 18-wheelers for turning around. I really don't quite understand their parking lot, but it could work. It's a commercial area. The owners of the property should be able to use their property. I think sometimes our gradations in between commercial general and commercial heavy are too strict. But my only beef, or my only concern really, it's not really a beef, is with the condition of the street. The street was put in to be a lighter use, and it was to a standard that's lower than what's required today. And I'm available for any questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
I had one quick question for Mr. Turner, if you don't mind. I know the staff had mentioned that they recommended you contact COSA DC. Brandon mentioned the talk about, I'm assuming their business park in East San Angelo off of East Loop 306. Have you spoken with COSA DC about your project? And if so, what were those conversations?
Not COSA DC exclusively. Mike Biggerstaff has been trying to get us into the Gunter building downtown. Yes. It doesn't meet our footprint. The traffic won't work with the trucks, and right. Then the footprint of the location itself is it's just not real easy for us to work with. So we did meet with the mayor. We did meet with multiple people at Mike's office, but we never came to an agreement on anything.
Okay. So I think this is a great project, and I think this is a fantastic location for you guys. I know your business. I would think that you guys would want to be proximal to the growth and development area of our community. And like Brandon said, this is about as close as we can get with available sites. I do know that you guys have a large retail component, and I think being proximal to Sherwood Way and the traffic that goes up and down that street should help you guys. I see the concerns about the truck traffic, but honestly, I'm hoping that COSA DC would help you guys. You're bringing jobs into our community. You're a business that we need. We're losing Sears out at the mall soon. They've made the announcement that they're closing up. So with those guys leaving, we need someone to buy appliances from, among all the other things that you guys sell. So I think it'd be wonderful to have you guys in this community.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for your efforts.
Yes, thank you. Anybody else?
I can address the COSA DC.
Yeah,
Sorry.
please.
I was the one that was main communication through here. So
okay.
We did talk. Like I said, we've looked at every option. So we looked at the business park because I was thinking, hey, that type of use, sure. When we met with owners and representatives, they said it's just not who we are. We need to be somewhere where,
you got a retail store.
Yeah, they want to come look
no one
at the
wants to go to,
and they want to pick. Exactly.
Yeah, an industrial park to look at a plumbing fixture.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Morning.
Morning, I'm Russell Pale, and I'm the city engineer for the city of San Angelo. And some of the concerns that we did have were also, or previously mentioned, were the existing conditions of the street, and due to the amount of truck traffic that would be increasing with this proposed development, we were just hoping to see, or we could potentially be working with this individual on maybe doing some improvements on the street, and what that might look like. We'd have to get into that in later discussions, but we are concerned about with the safety issues as well. If we do have larger truck traffic coming through this area, the radiuses here going into or from Sherwood Way onto Buick Street are pretty minimal. And if you've been to Rosa's on Taco Tuesday, it's pretty congested in that area. And those are some of our concerns and what we did bring up in our report, our portion of the report.
Okay, so there is some things that you could work with Ferguson as far as the streets
Potentially.
condition and.
Yes, potentially. Yeah, I mean, they would need to do. We would be requesting them to make some improvements to those streets. I mean, and that would add a cost to it.
So going back to what I was saying, this is the kind of scenario that I would love for COSA DC to be involved with and stepped in and really help us, because I understand the concerns about the road. I don't think the truck traffic's as scary as everyone maybe thought it was to begin with, and I think this is a great location for this business.
And we're just basing that on what was provided to us.
Right.
Sure.
Right. 42 18-wheelers.
that's
a
a
little,
different
it's a
story.
little scary.
Yes.
Versus
3.
maybe 1 or 2 a week or
Yes.
a couple a week.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but there's still service trucks, and there's some added traffic to this street, and it's not in great shape. I mean, go out and look at it.
And I mean, if we move forward with this, ultimately, if those improvements don't get made beforehand, those improvements get, taxed to the general population as far as getting that street rehabilitated to the state that it needs to be at.
Okay. Any other questions for the city? Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any further remarks from the public? Okay, thank you. Okay, this is if we move to approve it.
So if you move to approve, these are the 6 conditions of approval. This is a summary, and I can read in the full conditions if you'd like.
Number 5, what does that mean? Exactly, what would you be investigating? Whoops. Oh, thank you. Okay.
So this just says that it allows the city to review in the future. This is a general comment that we've used when you have a wholesale trade in a commercial zoning district. If there's any nuisances or any adverse findings, the city would have the grounds to go in, and that should be, that should be conditional use there.
Doesn't the city have the right by ordinance to do that anyway?
Yes.
If there's non-compliance, or
We, oftentimes you'll notice in these conditions of approval, we restate things that are already in other city ordinances, largely to be clear to you all, but also to the applicant. Certain things like this are there. You're right. If we leave this out, we still have the ability to send
still do
enforcement
it.
staff out.
Yeah,
to inspect.
you can do okay.
Okay, and number 6, what is it? Okay,
This
this
is
outdoor
just-
storage, okay.
That's right. So in the CG zoning, they'd still be limited to 10% of outdoor storage. And so when they submit a final site plan for the planning director to approve as a condition, we'd want to see where the outdoor storage is going to be located.
Is that consistent with what you guys were expecting?
I guess my question, 10% of the total site, so is that 10% of the approximate 2 acres,
That's correct. So it'd be that you take the total lot area times 10%. and
So
as long as you don't
9,000
exceed that.
plus or minus 9,000 feet.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Okay. Any other comments? Looking for a motion.
Can I make a motion subject to approve the application with no conditions of approval?
Take the 6 conditions off?
Yes.
Okay, let's go back to the conditions, please.
Those are already there. I don't know why we need them.
Are there any conditions that you guys have listed that the city does not have the authority by ordinance to enforce?
Wanted to add one comment on that. I believe 1 and 2. Number 2 would definitely have to be added because otherwise we don't have a landscape ordinance at this time, so we would need as a minimum a landscape plan.
Okay.
The site plan could be submitted with the building permit. It's just we often ask for it to make sure that planning has signed off on it before it gets to the permit stage so there's no kinks or issues.
Right.
So whatever, this in theory would be submitted anyway as part of the building permit. But my suggestion is that we keep at least 1 and 2. That's up to you all.
So 2 and 4, so 1, 3, 5, and 6 are basically a restatement of what's in the zoning ordinance to put the applicant on notice that this is what we need. And the first one in particular is an enhancement of the existing site plan that they had already given us. So give us a little bit more detail when you're ready to move forward so we have an idea of what you're doing. We can help you further. But in terms of anything additional, you'll see 2 and 4 are the only additional pieces that would not necessarily be laid out in the zoning ordinance.
I would say to approve the application with no conditions.
With no conditions, okay? We have a second. We're looking for a second. We have a motion. Okay. Okay. Any discussion before we vote?
So you're concerned about just the having to provide additional information that's not necessary otherwise?
Yeah, I consider it to be overreaching.
Okay. I'm not overly concerned about either one of those. I think Ferguson's going to do the right thing here, and they're going to want to landscape their property for retail. So, and I don't think they're going to put any RVs or mobile homes on this lot. So, I'm okay to vote.
Okay. All those, we have a motion and a second to accept or approve the conditional use for Ferguson with no conditions. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? It's 1. Me.
You're opposed.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, text amendments. Yes, ma'am. Ah.
Uh-oh.
Do you need your cane? I do. It's right behind you.
Oh, no.
Okay. Okay.
Good morning, Planning Commissioners, Rebecca Guerra, Planning Manager. So what we have before you is a text amendment to a section of the zoning ordinance that you have just seen. So we had just brought forward to you a change to the zoning ordinance which allowed trellises and pergolas and open structures to be closer to the side setbacks in RS3 zoning districts. So what RS3 zoning districts are is basically 0 lot lines. So you build on one line to the 0 lot line, and on the other side you have a minimum distance of 10 feet from the next structure, for the next building. So when we brought that before you, it went through city council, it got approved, and that setback was reduced all the way down to 5 feet with certain conditions attached to it. So when we wrote that, and we started actually applying it to folks that were coming in to build these trellises, we found that it was a little bit hard to understand from the folks who were trying to build these structures, and difficult to implement in terms of what exactly does this open area mean in terms of the roof? What does this, what does a ratio mean? What does it mean to be unencumbered? So when we looked at that section, this is what's in there. That's that third section that's in there. So I'm going to go forward first just to show you what's in there today. So today you have to meet 3 conditions. Period. It's not or, it's and. You have to meet all 3. So today you have to construct the structure, the pergola or the trellis, with materials that are wholly non-combustible or with limited combustibility, including fire retardant wood or construction. And there has to be a minimum 2-foot separation from the principal building. So that is the first thing you must meet, period. Second one is, it has to be unenclosed and unencumbered by any structures, walls, or screening. So in other words, when you have these pillars that are holding this canopy up, you can't have anything in between. So that today is how it stands. Plus, there is this requirement, which says the roof also has to be substantially open with a ratio of greater than or equal to 1 open portion to 1 solid portion, or as a retractable roof, or as an awning constructed entirely of non-combustible material. Well, you can see right then and there, it's a little bit difficult to understand. Where does the or go? What does that apply to? So in this case, because we already have this first section that talks about the type of materials that have to be used, that is, that it has to be non-combustible or with limited combustibility, and because we also talk about the fact that it is unenclosed and unencumbered, we think that the first 2 requirements already tell the story of how these structures should be built. So what we're proposing today is to go ahead and eliminate that portion, so that third portion of that section. So that was a long way of saying we're getting rid of 1 portion, but there it is. So staff's recommendation is approval of the text amendment to Chapter 12, Exhibit A of the zoning ordinance, which is Article 4, specific use standards for Section 402, accessory uses and structures. Do you have any questions?
No. Okay. Any discussion on that or a motion?
I make the motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. And we also need to first open it to the public if anyone would like to speak on this text amendment. Okay.
Again, I make the motion to approve the staff recommendation.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve staff recommendation and a second on that. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Is no opposed. Okay, thank you, Rebecca.
Okay. Jeff, do you want to advance it to the next one?
And we have the director's report.
I believe you have the remote. One moment.
Okay.
Yes, just briefly, you may recall at a previous meeting that there was an issue with the Bridlewood subdivision, and there was a question about the variances. You all approved the variances by a 4-3 vote. Staff has appealed that to the city council, which will be heard tomorrow morning at the city council meeting. Also, just an FYI about some upcoming items. We've been working with the DHRC over the past few months on changes to the historic and river corridor ordinance, and looking at boundary changes, some changes into what types of developments in the downtown or river corridor have to go to the DHRC. We're expanding the number that can be approved administratively by staff. So you'll be seeing those most likely in March, depending on the DHRC's timeline to approve those. And then we're also looking at some minor changes to the subdivision ordinance that we've mentioned to you a few times before, but we've got a list of those cleanup items for the subdivision ordinance, as well as some more substantive changes that you'll be seeing over the coming months as well.
Okay, our next regular meeting of the Planning Commission is
tentatively scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. on Monday, March 19th, 2018, in council chambers of the McNeese Convention Center at 501 Concho Drive. And any motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.